Hello and welcome. I'm very excited to announce a new video series that I'm going to be uploading on my channel that I have been wanting to do for a long time. If you are familiar with some of my videos of the past, I have been weaving in content and information about the mind-body connection, but specifically our false beliefs, our behavioral patterns, and how it manifests in our body. And this follows the work of Dr. Michael Lincoln, who I will introduce formally in this video. I have been weaving in some of the information through some of my other videos in the past, but now I feel ready, I feel clear, and I feel that the world needs this information more now than ever. And well, moving forward, as we are moving into a time, I feel, where health is going to be a top priority. Well, it always is a top priority in all honesty, but I feel now a lot of people are shifting the way that they view their health and taking health into their own hands. And this is going to not only allow for self-healing, but allow for patterns to be broken and dismantled, allowing for aspects of ourself that we have not seen yet to integrate, especially our shadow components, but also the false beliefs that have been ingrained within our unconscious, deep within our unconscious mind, driving a lot of our behaviors and our patterns and our habits. So this video is going to be more of an introduction to this work moving forward, and also to Michael Lincoln, who Dr. Michael Lincoln is. First of all, if you are interested in understanding your body more, if you are wanting to understand the deep correlation between beliefs, behavioral patterns, and body diseases, aches, illnesses, and pains, you can follow me on the Odyssey of Self. In the members section, there is a library that I have been creating, pinpointing very specific parts of our body. And this will also extend into diseases and other ailments that we can commonly encounter in our life, plus the correlating beliefs and patterns that are associated. So Dr. Michael Lincoln was a clinical psychologist. He's no longer with us, and he really was never, his work was never really brought to the foreground or publicized. He was not a public person like how we are used to seeing a lot of people today on social media. He was a professional. He wrote a lot of work, material pertaining to his research. And his dying wish, more or less, was to have the work grow organically rather than marketing. The unfortunate part of that is we live in a society where we are used to finding information through marketing and through social media. So hopefully I can help push the momentum a little bit more into the direction of his work. I am a strong supporter of his work because it changed my life. I don't want to sound dramatic, but I have spent the majority of my adult life searching and seeking for therapies and different answers for what I was struggling with, coming up empty-handed. A lot of the different therapies and modalities and healing techniques that I had incorporated or encountered did help temporarily, but it didn't give me the depth that I needed to break real hard patterns within myself. And I'm talking about the patterns that we can't see, the ones that hold us back, the ones that weigh heavily on us, the ones that we get so comfortable with, but aren't comfortable in the same. A lot of these patterns run so deep within our unconscious mind, and that is what led me into the unconscious mind, understanding there is a lot of depth within ourselves that is waiting for us to uncover. And when we explore our unconscious mind and the patterns and our beliefs, we not only will heal our body as a result, but we break free from the patterns that have been holding us back, weighing us down, and altering our perception to view reality through illusions. And these illusions are a construct of the experiences we've gone through in the past, mostly traumatic or difficult, but also what has been imposed on us from society since early on, which I'm also going to touch on in this video. Michael Lincoln had spent 30 years researching the correlation between the physical effects of beliefs and patterns, emotional patterns, mental patterns, but the patterns that are held within our deeper self. When we are able to understand these deeper patterns and these deeper emotions and beliefs, we then free ourselves of the weight we have been carrying, the burdens we have been carrying. Everything is energy, and the greater weight that we carry, the greater density we hold in our body, and the unconscious patterns will eventually suck up our energy and drain us and deplete us and be very taxing on our body. So he had spent 30 years working with children to senior adults, working with patients in mental institutes, in prisons, and the like across the gamut, and of course his own internal practice. He has a multitude of books now published. The one I have been working with for directly with myself for about 3 years. I was introduced to the work about 5 years ago as working with a specialist. And then I ended up branching off into my own practice and studied the work and implemented the work on myself for 3 years. I work with the book Messages from the Body. And I also do work with the book Problematic Patterns, Psychological Patterns, where I have completely rewired my mental patterning. I used to stutter, I used to stammer, I used to have a very difficult time holding information, communicating, thinking clearly, being calm. I mean, the list goes on, and I will be talking about it more in detail because there is a very extensive list of what I have rewired within myself, reshaped and transformed within my being. I have gone through a complete overhaul, which again, I will speak to in other videos, but this video is more of an introduction to this deeper work. So again, if you are looking to heal your body, transform your reality, shift into a more aligned, truer, and confident version of yourself, let go of the dense energy that you have been holding, the heaviness, the weight that maybe you can't see, this is going to be for you. But first, before I get into how to rewire some of these belief patterns, I'm going to also share some entry points into what is really important to realize or recognize within your practice that needs addressing in order to get the deepest benefit from this work. The first is going to be letting go of the concept of time. When we are dedicating our practice to inner transformation or even outer transformation, shifting our reality, healing ourselves, understanding more about ourselves, simply being curious, maybe for education, we need to let go of the concept of time. And just, I feel it's a general statement overall for our existence that will help with taking the pressure off and will also help us understand that being in the present moment and what we are investing into in the present moment is going to shape our future. When I first started this, probably about 4 years ago, I was met with a few people who were wanting quick fixes and quick change to help them get out of uncomfortable situations. How can I get out as fast as possible? How can I make this stop? How can I heal myself? I don't want to feel pain anymore. You can go down the route of a quick fix, but that is not going to allow you to understand why it even exists in the first place. In order to understand the root origin of the why we are sick, why we are in perpetual states of suffering, why we are addicted, why we are XYZ, and on and on and on, we have to understand that origin, the origin within ourselves, the reason why it exists in the first place. It didn't show up from nowhere, and it's not showing up in your life to ruin your life. You have full ability to change everything. However, oftentimes these deeper aspects of ourselves, depending on our age and depending on how deep they go, can take a while to unravel from. However, we have two paths to take. Would you rather take a path where you are working on yourself and unraveling from the patterns and healing yourself, or taking a quick fix, a pill, medication, something that will ease the pain temporarily and still live with the origin beliefs and the suffering under the surface and continue on that path just as it is? When you invest in yourself in the present moment, right in the here and now, you are making an impact on your future. And sometimes for some people, it might be a very light change or adjustment that needs to happen. For others, it may require some deeper work under the surface, like myself. But I would rather spend time working on myself and investing in myself and having the rest of my life free and healthy and fulfilled and aligned than having been staying on the path that I was before and living and even probably in worse conditions than I even was before. So we have a choice. We have a choice to go down a path of working on ourselves and committing to making change in our life or not. And Again, quick fixes, temporary solutions, but still living with the origin pain that resides under the surface. And time in general is infinite. We are not in a rush. That is conditioning. Conditioning, it has been imposed on us to chase the clock and to feel that we're running out of time, but that comes from fear. And it comes from many aspects of our early life, but a lot of this conditioning can make us feel that we're running out of time, that we need to be somewhere at a certain point of time, that even maybe we don't even really realize why we're so hyper anxious about change, but we just are. And that could be unresolved trauma and anxiety that has not been resolved within the nervous system, within the unconscious mind, that perpetuates this constant cycle and thirst for wanting out or wanting something better or chasing results or chasing something that doesn't exist yet. When we let go of the concept of time, we then drop into the present moment and actually time starts to slow down. Relatively speaking, I mean, in some ways, time seems like it is moving fast, but you get to drop into more of yourself. Your senses become heightened, your perceptions become opened. You start to feel more, you start to relax more, and you start to learn more about yourself and the true reality of life. The next is you have to want to change. And you have to believe in yourself. The work is not what is changing you, it's you that is changing you. And when you believe in yourself, you will find the way, you will learn more about yourself, and you will create great change in your life. But you have to believe it. And this comes from the work of Bruce Lipton. If you know the book, The Biology of Belief, he has talked about studies where placebo effect, for example, people who have healed themselves when they have thought that they are on medication, but they weren't, and their body naturally healed because their mind was so strong and powerful. And also simple case studies of people who just truly believed that they could heal, that they could feel better, that they could have a better life. That belief alone, the need or the want or the desire to create change, is the biggest component of all of this. If you believe in yourself, if you want change in your life, you will find a way and it will happen. It might take time. It might be only a short period of time, but the choice is up to you. If you believe in yourself, if you believe it's possible, and if you believe you can, you will. The next, well, it requires discipline and dedication. Discipline and dedication is not full time, by the way. We don't have to be constantly healing ourselves and improving ourselves every single day. It takes about, I think, up to 60 days to introduce a new habit. So there might be a little bit of upfront work to integrate new habits if you are wanting to change some habits. If you are wanting to simply invest in yourself and learn more about yourself, there is going to be time required for integration and for the change to happen. However, we don't always need to be on and we don't always need to be fixing. And this is a misconception of our reality as well, that there's something wrong with us. The more we can settle into the experience of life and simply search and seek when needed, and when we feel that we are up against a challenge or we're stuck or there's something weighing on us, we can work through these blocks and these moments and these challenges by going deeper within ourselves. But otherwise, there's also the aspect of enjoying life and being. However, not giving up on yourself through the darkest times and through the challenges are going to be the most crucial. Those are the times that need you the most. The next is your shadow is your key to your light. When you're on the path of healing, transformation, shadow work, spiritual growth, anything that involves you looking at yourself differently, you're going to have to go through the shadow. The shadow is my main domain that I have been focusing on because I truly believe this is the one component that can be overlooked because it's uncomfortable, and there are automatic deterrents that are placed within ourselves that we unconsciously live by, meaning there are blocks of perception and walls of perception that are built for us not to see our own inner truth, to not see our flaws, or flaws as in the flaws that we think are flaws, to not see our maybe more unpleasant side of ourselves, to not get real about maybe our inner shame or guilt or fear that we're carrying and harboring. These are protective mechanisms that are built within ourselves, deep within our unconscious, that literally prevent us from seeing our whole self, from seeing how we are behaving, from seeing what we are doing, from seeing how we are feeling truly, without suppressing or hiding it or denying it or ignoring it altogether. The shadow is your key to your light. In order to get through and open up more of yourself, you have to go through the shadow. And during the process of self-discovery and self-mastery, you will most likely encounter your shadow. You most likely also will be very close with your shadow, because your shadow is the component of yourself that is going to arise when you are going through more of yourself, when you are opening up more layers and more dimensions within yourself. You're naturally going to unlock aspects that you haven't been able to see before: stored memories, stored energy, stored emotions. When these memories and emotions and energies show up, it can be very very uncomfortable, and it can discourage oneself from continuing on. Discomfort is not bad, and this is an illusion that society has created based on what we have available for us. If we have an ache, a pain, a discomfort, there is medication, there are solutions and answers for everything that we feel to be uncomfortable. But when we search externally for something that can mask these discomforts, we're literally just masking it. We're not allowing for ourselves to explore deeper within ourselves to understand why are we uncomfortable? Why is the discomfort here in the first place? We can tend to look at the discomfort as something bad, and then we run to a solution in order to relieve ourselves from that discomfort. But that discomfort is truly allowing for us to take a pause and to explore deeper within it, to unravel what is trying to tell us, what is trying to show us from a deeper landscape. So understanding that the shadow is your access point. When you run into fear, when you run into worry, doubt, anger, any kind of resistance, when your body starts to shut down, when your emotions arise, when your thoughts are overriding your experience, that is the perfect time to go in and understand that the experiences you're going through are not bad. There are key points to something deeper within yourself that's waiting to be unlocked, waiting to be unraveled, waiting to be released. All right, the next one is there are no gatekeepers, although we have been conditioned to believe so. This is a bit of a sensitive topic, so I'm going to tread lightly on this. However, this was a point that became very evident to me only a couple of years ago. We are led to believe that in our society, only the specialists are able and capable enough to understand what is happening within ourselves. This is how society has been constructed. There are amazing doctors and therapists and specialists out there. I've known a few myself, amazing people, but like on any side of the spectrum, there are also those who have no idea and who are very controlling and dominating with owning our health and owning our ability to feel safe and comfortable and confident, exploring our own self in different ways. So in our early years, myself included, I've gone down this path. We are told that a doctor is the one who is going to give us the answer for any kind of health complications. The therapists are there to give us the answers to our more psychological, emotional problems. And there is truth to that. However, what has happened in our society is when we lean so much onto specialists and when we feel that that is the only solution and the only answer, we are leaning more away from ourselves. We are distancing the relationship from our own self to understand our body more, to understand our emotions more, to understand ourselves more. This is our body. This is our body. This is our mind. This is our emotional landscape. This is our whole self. And when we distance ourselves from ourselves, we are not allowing ourselves to be whole. We are not allowing ourselves to discover ourselves more. And we are not allowing ourselves to take our power back and be sovereign and own our health. So when I added there are no gatekeepers, it means we have to be very cautious of how much we are giving ourselves away to the medical system, to specialists, to answers externally, rather than taking a moment to understand ourselves more, to empower ourselves more, and to dive into our own self-inquiry, to break patterns, to heal ourselves, and to really return to our whole self. Again, when we are leaning externally for external solutions and help me and save me, we are leaning away from ourself. And the final one is throw away everything you think you know. In order to understand your belief systems, your behaviors, your patterns, your family's patterns, societal patterns, what's happening within your body, within your mind, with your emotional self, even the way you've been used to functioning in your life, throw it all out. Start over again. Start fresh with an open mind. Go into this curious. Be a bit of your own detective. Be open, question things, analyze, search, seek, and you shall find. You will find the answers and more when your mind is open, when you are curious, and when you're thirsty. And this doesn't mean, again, to be constantly on all the time. This means when you need it the most, in moments that are difficult, or moments when you feel inspired to search and to seek and to learn more and to transform your life, to transform yourself. Be open to discovery. Okay, so now we're going to go into some simple steps to rewire your behavioral patterns, but starting with the beliefs. So just as a refresh for some of you, if you haven't seen my earlier videos, there are two different types of beliefs that we can have in our existence at any time. We have our true beliefs, which are connected with our true, authentic, pure self, what we are born into this world with. And then we have our false beliefs, which are beliefs that are created through our formative years, even in the womb. And if you do want to venture back into past life soul imprinting, then yes, it can go really far back. But I tend to look at this lifetime the most because it's the easiest to understand and to remember. But we can look back at our past experiences to understand the false beliefs that have been imposed on us or that have been ingrained within us from observation, from sensing and taking in life from our parents, from other people, caregivers, from society, as I mentioned, and our traumas. And so these experiences that we go through become our false beliefs, meaning it becomes the masks that we wear, the personas that we create, the false patterns of fear, anger, worry, resentment, guilt, shame, all of the experiences that have left a difficult imprint within ourselves becomes a story, becomes a web of beliefs within our deep, deep unconscious. And they drive our behaviors. They drive how we behave unconsciously, how we act, how we think, our emotional responses to life, and the perceptions, the lens in which we see our reality. And when we start peeling back these layers, get ready for a wild ride, because your reality is going to shift altogether. The way you see life, have seen life, will shift altogether. And when you peel back these layers, you become more connected with your true beliefs because you're dismantling these false beliefs that have been created and imposed and ingrained. You then become more of your true self. You become more confident, you become more aligned, you become more clear with yourself, with life, etc. We do need to go through the layers of the false beliefs, which can bring up emotions, distress, discomfort, uncertainty. And that is completely normal. We have to go through those layers to understand the role that they play within our life. The more we go through those layers, the more we get to understand about ourselves. And when we see those layers, poof, we get to let them go. They become dissolved, we shift, we become more whole as a result. All right, so now we're going to go into this pattern of uncovering your false beliefs. And this is going to be a common exercise that I'm going to incorporate moving forward into some of the other videos in the future when looking at certain body parts and getting really, really granular and specific with this practice. But for now, you can dip into this work a little bit and get a feel for it. We're going to start at the very top and work our way down. So to start, you can imagine where you want to be. Who do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to experience? What do you feel called to and aligned with the most? Start at the top and get a very clear sense of, where do I want to be right now? How do I want to feel in my life? What do I want to create? Who am I at the core, and how do I want to express myself? The next stage moving down is to look at the problems you are facing that are getting in the way of you being that person. So for example, I'll use myself as an example. It's easy enough. For myself, I want to have a thriving YouTube channel where I can share my stories and my knowledge with you out there. But in order for me to do that, and what I have been doing is I've had to understand the fears that have been getting in my way. I've had to also understand the blocks and the difficulties that show up as mental patterns that discourage me from maybe recording videos, or even holding me back from maybe pushing a little bit harder, or trying something different, or putting myself out there a bit more, or speaking smoothly and articulately so that you can receive the information and it lands in the way that it's meant to land. There are many different ways to look at it, but what are the main challenges that are getting in your way, that are holding you back? And try to look at this from many different perspectives, through many different lenses. There are going to be the obvious challenges, and then there might be some that are very subtle and hard to see. Another aspect to focus on for this level is to identify any patterns that are showing up in your life. The patterns can come from relationships. The patterns can come from thoughts, the words that you say to yourself or that you speak out into the universe about your life or about certain people. This can also include patterns of behaviors, self-sabotage mechanisms, again, the fear and the overthinking or emotional patterns. So be aware of anything that's reoccurring and what it could be showing you. The next stage down is going to be observe your behaviors attached to the specific problem. So when you identify the problem or the challenge or the difficulty, what are the behaviors attached to that? So for example, if I am afraid of public speaking and presenting myself on camera, then I would tend to self-sabotage myself by keeping busy doing other things. I would find other ways to preoccupy my time, for example, or I might even unconsciously get really tired, or I would push it off to tomorrow, and then I would push it off again another day and another day and another day. So those are similar behavioral patterns that will offer insight into the connection between the patterns that I'm creating unconsciously and the challenge, and then what's happening within my deeper self as far as the habits that are perpetuating. Behaviors, by the way, I should add, are very difficult to see. We don't want to see our behaviors because there can be a lot of shame behind them. There can be a lot of fear or resentment that could become activated when we see ourselves in a certain light. We might get mad at ourselves. We might be ashamed of our true self. Therefore, we might not be able to see how we are behaving and acting, and that is completely normal. So be gentle with yourself during this process. This does take, again, a new level of observation. But the point of this work is also to identify where could there be shame when we are looking at ourselves through a different lens. If it does trigger shame or fear or anger, that's wonderful. You want to sit with it and feel it and see it for what it is, and then see your true self of your true being wanting to move beyond that specific experience or emotional difficulty. Your true self wants to move beyond and transcend the shame and the fear. So how can you let it move beyond some of the feelings that might be arising for you to work through, rather than facing them and getting discouraged and moving back into what has felt familiar? The next stage moving down is to identify the belief behind the behavior. All right, so this one gets a bit tricky, but I will be creating a lot of work around connecting behaviors with beliefs, because I feel this is the hardest part to understand within ourselves. For example, if I work too much, if I feel that the more work I do, the more results I'm going to be able to create, there may be a belief behind that of I am not good enough. So that belief is perpetuating my unconscious patterns or subconscious habits of overworking, overextending, maybe having poor boundaries, giving too much, not understanding my value, having low self-confidence and low worth, not being able to receive. There could be a false belief behind it of I am not good enough. Also, I should mention at the Odyssey of Self, with regards to the members section, I am creating a library of podcasts and working exercises for you to understand behavioral patterns and the beliefs associated. So that also is part of the Odyssey of Self. If you're wanting to really dive into this work, there is a growing library over there. It's only $8 a month. So you can jump in and do a bit of research and deep dive into your own behaviors and patterns. There are now also working exercises for you to work out of some of these behavioral patterns, because there are some different exercises that will be needed in order for you to really break the pattern. Now, going into the level deeper is to identify, where did this pattern or belief come from? When you're able to go right to the source of where this started, that is where you crack this open. That is where you're going to see something more about your life, yourself, and your past. And when you have that story illuminated, you get to move on from it. You grow from it. You integrate the challenges that you have experienced during that point in your life, and it becomes more of yourself because you have seen it. And that is the power of this work. This is going deep into the unconscious. And the more light we can shine on the shadowy aspects, on the unconscious, the greater awareness we create within ourselves, within the scope of our reality, therefore releasing stored energy and alleviating the pressure on our body and life experiences as well. So you want to find the point of where you first experienced this in your childhood. You can drop into a meditation, you can journal. This is not about accusing anyone of the past. These are experiences. These are patterns passed down and passed down and passed down, and we get to break them. And so going through this process, through inquiry, through self-reflection, through being compassionate towards ourselves and compassionate towards our parents, that is where the true healing and true transformation gets to come from. What I have also done in this stage is I have felt into myself when I was in the experience of the origin point of that pattern or of that belief. I have sat with it and I have felt it, and I have given that child or that experience my attention, not again judging or criticizing, but loving and nurturing and seeing it and compassionately observing the situation. It allows for me to feel it. My process might be a little bit different than what you might go through, but for me, I find when I'm able to feel it and sense what I had experienced back then, I can feel the shift happening within myself. I can feel a release. Sometimes it's very, 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 very subtle, but it feels like a little muscle is starting to open up, like it's been almost tight and holding on for a long time, and all of a sudden letting go. And I can feel it within myself. I don't know exactly where. It's almost a shift of energy. It's almost a shift of emotions within myself, but it is a shift nonetheless. And these little shifts, big or small, will make a huge impact in your life. Now for the next stage, what beliefs can you integrate to counter the old? When you identify a false belief, I am not enough, I must work hard to be validated, to be seen, to be heard. Life is too difficult, too dangerous. When we identify the false beliefs, countering them with the true belief is going to help dissolve the false belief. So we must see the counter or the contrast of the false belief to integrate that as our truth. And our true self, our true highest pure self is not in fear, and is not attached to the problems and the negativity and the worry of our conditioning. So even think of, what would your true higher self, pure self, child self counter your false beliefs with? So if it is I am not enough, then it is going to be I am enough. If it is going to be I have to work hard to get ahead, there can be I trust my path, work is easy, and I am rewarded abundantly. Or I am an abundant expression of the universe, and abundance is all around me. You can create the contrast, the contrasting or counter belief to the false belief that resides within your heart, within your soul, within your higher self to be your truth. When you incorporate the true beliefs, you will start to also notice another shift of empowerment, because you are then becoming aligned more with your true self. And then next, what actions can you take to break behavioral patterns? All right, so when you identify a behavioral pattern, say for example, going back into my self-sabotage of distracting myself with other work rather than facing the work that I need to do and I should be doing. What can I do to break a pattern and put myself on track to continue on with what I want to do, where I want to grow, and who I want to be? Well, one would be to focus my work, to dedicate some time to work through my fears, even if it's messy, even if it's not the way I want it to be. I can still move in the direction that I want, even if it is step by step, carving out certain times of the day, committing to certain types of work, putting myself out there more, practicing more. As long as we are pointing ourselves in the direction of what we feel called to, who we are, and what we want to create, that's all we need to do. If we feel pressure and if we feel that we need to get this done now and we have to get through this right away, that is going to be a false belief. That will need to be looked at as well. So you can go into all these steps again, right to the beginning of why there is pressure in the first place. But for this one, what small actionable steps can you take to start creating change in your life to break these patterns? Very small. Very small. They can be incremental changes. They can be big changes if you feel brave and audacious and you want to go big and that's how you work, and that's completely fine. But as long as you are being aware of the behavioral patterns and getting honest and true with yourself, finding ways to work through these patterns just step by step, giving yourself some time and space. And when you work through the process of breaking these patterns, there will also be time needed for integration. When you break patterns, you might find yourself going through emotional or energetic fluctuations. It's because also your body is adjusting to a new way of being. You might be awakening more of your true self, and that does take time to get used to. And when we do awaken more of our true self and align more with our true self, we are naturally going to be met with more fear, but it's another layer that we get to go through. All right, so that is it. That is all for now as we venture into these topics of beliefs and the body, and beliefs in our life, how beliefs can radically, drastically shape our reality completely. This is going to be the deepest work you will ever do. So keep an eye open for videos as I move forward. If there is anything particular that you would like me to cover, any specific disease, ache, pain, body illness, even a certain challenge that you're facing or a behavioral pattern that you would like me to address in any of these videos, please leave a comment and I will create the content. All right, so I'm wishing you all the best on your journey, and don't forget to look into the Odyssey of Self, where there is a growing library there for additional work if this is calling for you. All right, until next time, take care.